Welcome to another edition of The Night Sky This Week. I'm your host, Andrew Fazekas, the Night Sky Guy. So happy that you can join me today, wherever you are watching around the world. We're here to talk about the night sky and mark a few events that you can see each week. I'm here to share with you some of my choices for whatever some of the things you could see in the night sky wherever you are, as long as you've got clear skies. And even if you have no telescope and binoculars, there's things to see. And I try to cover a little bit of everything in terms of viewing for novices, beginners, or even those that are maybe a little bit more advanced, have been in the hobby for a while, but are looking for some few tips of what to point your telescope or binoculars at. So thank you so much for joining me. I've got the chat room open. Comments are coming in. Love seeing everyone, where they are located, where you're watching from. I've got folks from Pakistan. I've got folks in Florida, USA. I've got someone in Los Angeles here, Marseille, France, Alberta, Canada. Whole range of people from all over the world, even from Sweden, wonderful, and Turkey as well, and Lebanon and Scotland and the Ukraine. It's just wonderful seeing everyone around. Of course, we share one sky, right, everyone? And so it's really nice that we can share this few minutes together. So why don't we jump right in and start talking about the night sky? Let's see the planetarium program. So I've got my planetarium program set up to share with you what the sky looks like after the sun sets on Monday, November 15th. That's as we're recording right now. It's in the early afternoon for me here in Montreal, Canada, on Monday. And this is what is going to be unfolding in the skies tonight. And so Monday night, we'll see a near full moon. We're heading towards a full moon on Friday. And so the moon is front and center this week. It's really something that we have to contend with as observers. Of course, it can be something fun to look at the moon itself. And of course, it can be a little bit of a challenge in terms of its brightness, blocking out some of the fainter objects. So this week is not really the best time to see deep sky objects away from the solar system, outside. So these are other stars and galaxies, because they tend to be faint, and the glare of the moon really is a challenge to deal with. So what you see here is after sunset, some planetary viewing, other worlds that are really wonderfully positioned for us to look at. So with the naked eye, these are things that you will see as long as you've got a clear view towards the southwestern skies. You've got pinning down this low southwest sky after sunset is that brilliant white star-like planet, Venus. It's by far the brightest of all the planets and the brightest star-like object in the southwest skies in the early evening, so you can't miss it. Then if you move up towards the southern skies, you'll see in the constellation Capricornus, the sea goat, you've got Saturn, which has this yellowish star-like appearance, and then a really bright creamy colored star is Jupiter. So these two planets have been dominating the skies in the evening for a long time now, weeks and months actually, and they really are just a great way to begin learning about the planets, the movements of the planets. You can see they're all kind of lined up, these three worlds. They are along what we call the ecliptic line. This is the highway of the planets. The sun, the moon, all the solar system bodies that orbit the sun, even the sun itself, follows this ecliptic line that they travel in our skies. And you have to remember that Earth is embedded inside the solar system, right? We have our own orbit around the sun, and there's a plane to the solar system, a plane, and we are seeing through that plane, and we see everything moving along this imaginary line that transects all these planets. And if we keep moving towards the southeastern sky, there is the near full moon. It's what we call a waxing gibbous moon. Waxing, it's growing larger every day. The more of the disk is being illuminated. It's, of course, as in respect to the moon's position in respect to the Earth and the sun, and how it's getting illuminated as it's orbiting the Earth. And you can see that's what we call a waxing gibbous. A gibbous moon means that you see more than half of the disk illuminated. When we have a half a disk illuminated, we call that a quarter moon. When we have a little bit more than that, less than the full moon, but more than a half a disk, we call that a gibbous. It's in the gibbous phase, and it's called a waxing gibbous because it's heading towards the full moon. We would call it a waning gibbous once we see the other side illuminated. It will be the opposite effect as it's getting smaller and thin, and becomes a thin crescent and then a new moon. That's the cycle, the monthly cycle of the moon. And so we're heading towards the full moon. And on Wednesday, if we go on to Wednesday, here's something interesting that the moon will kind of be part of on Wednesday night. And we're going to go into a little bit later in the evening, say around, I don't know, maybe around 8 o'clock at night, looking towards the east, southeast. What you'll notice is that the moon will be close to the faintest naked eye planet that's technically visible. Now, you probably won't be able to see it because of the glare of the near full moon. And we're getting closer. Remember, Friday morning Eastern time in North America will be when we will be we will reach the full moon phase. So it's just so bright, the moon this week, that you won't be able to, with the naked eye, probably see Uranus. But Uranus, the planet that's the seventh planet from the sun, is an ice giant. It's a world many times larger than the Earth, and it is technically at magnitude 5.8 visible to the naked eye under dark sky conditions, and that you really have to have dark skies, like out in a desert somewhere far away from city light pollutions, to even glimpse it with the naked eye. But with binoculars, this is easy. And if you have the moon close by, even though it has a very strong glare, try to see if you can spot the green dot-like appearance of Uranus through a backyard binocular. And if you have, of course, a telescope, that will be even easier to spot. But use your binoculars to kind of scan the sky next to the moon. This will allow you to zoom in on Uranus. And because the moon is close to Uranus, it's a great time to try to spot it if you haven't before. So this is a challenge I put out for you guys this week. This is again Wednesday, November 17th. November 17th, the moon, the near full moon, will be positioned fairly close to Uranus. And through an average pair of binoculars, this is about how far away the two will appear. You should be able to get in an average 7 by 50 pair of binoculars. It's an average pair. You'll be able to put both of them in the same field of view. And so you're looking for Uranus off to the left of the moon, basically, and just look for a green colored star. That's really the key here. And it won't be blinking. It'll be kind of just a steady light green dot. That's what it'll appear like through binoculars and even small telescopes. So try that out this week, November 17th. Uranus next to the moon. Now, another very interesting event this week. It's an annual event, and it's called a meteor shower. We love meteor showers here. I love them because they're just so easy to see. Now, even though we have a near full moon, this week is the annual Leonid meteor shower. And the Leonid meteor shower comes along like clockwork, peaking on November 17th and 18th. So this Wednesday, November 17th, into the early morning hours of Thursday, November 18th, is when you'll see the peak of this annual moderate meteor shower. Now, what's cool about the Leonids is that every 30 years or so, there's a huge uptick. You can even have a storm. Historically, there's been, over the last centuries, a record of where the shower really kicks in and you don't get just a trickle of shooting stars per hour. You may get upwards of 1,000 or more per hour. Now, we're not going to have anything like that this year, unfortunately, but we will still have to look forward to some shooting stars. And maybe we're talking about 5 to 15 shooting stars per hour with the Leonid meteor shower peaking. Again, this is Wednesday night, November 17th, into the early morning hours of November 18th. And we'll just go over to the planetarium software, and let me punch in the Leonids, and I'll show you what the peak looks like and where it is. Now we're going to zoom out here, and we're going to let the clock run up into around local midnight time, and you'll see what happens here. There is what we call the radiant of the shower. Now, this is set right now around 2 o'clock in the morning. And around midnight, actually, if I go back here, around midnight, that's around midnight, local time, wherever you are, that's when the Leo constellation appears to rise in the eastern part of your sky. Now, why this is important is because when we look at meteor showers, the best time to see them is usually when the radiant is as high as possible. Now, what is a radiant of a shower? That is really where they appear to radiate out from, originate from. If you would trace back your individual shooting stars, as you see in this planetarium program, see them all animated here, shooting out from one region of the sky, some going lower, some going higher, off to the sides. These are the individual shooting stars. Remember, those shooting stars are no larger than a grain of sand, most of them. And these are little particles that have been floating in space, being shed from a comet that orbits the sun. And as these comets orbit the sun, they melt and they shed material, these sand grain-sized particles, and they form a cloud, and Earth slams into these clouds every year. Now, what's interesting is we'll be able to see these particles as they enter the atmosphere at very high speeds, and they shoot across the upper atmosphere, burning up. And as they burn up, they produce this little streak of light. And that's what you're seeing here in this planetarium program. It are these streaks of light, these individual particles creating this light show. Now, they appear to, if you trace these individual lights back, they appear to be coming from this constellation. And this is Leo, the lion. It's usually seen in the early evenings at springtime in the northern hemisphere, or in the fall in the southern hemisphere. And so this constellation at this time of the year, now in mid-November, it really rises late at night, around after local midnight time. And so you have to wait until this radiant of the shower rises above your local horizon. And that's when you'll see the best show. So in the early morning hours of after midnight, from Wednesday night into early Thursday morning is when you'll see the most meteors. Expect to see anywhere from 5 to 15 shooting stars. And don't forget that you have the moon to contend with, right? Right over there. So what do you do? So the trick here is really when you're looking at the shooting star shows, any shooting, and there's the moon up there at the same time, is you turn your back, right? So if the moon is in back of you, you maintain your dark vision adaptation, right? Your eyes have to adapt to darkness. The darker that they get adapted to, your eyes, the more you'll see in the sky. So if you get exposed to a bright light somewhere, somebody turns on a porch light, or there's an oncoming car, the headlights blind you, and you have to wait another 15 minutes to a half hour to get your eyes readjusted to darkness. Now with the moon there, we can't turn off the moon, so we turn our backs to the moon. That's the key to watching a shooting star show while there's a moon up. And of course, it's a near full moon, so it's kind of like pretty much the worst sky conditions that nature has thrown against you. Even if you have clear sky and you don't have clouds, that moon is really going to interfere. So expect a modest show, but the Leonids are fun, and they're known for fireballs, which are baseball to basketball sized stones, and we don't know when and where they appear. The only way to find out is to go out and watch them. So do go out, bring a blanket, bring some hot chocolate, relax, enjoy the show, enjoy just the night sky for what it has to offer, and hopefully you'll see some fireballs and some shooting stars to make some wishes on. So that is the Leonids. And then is the big news of this week, and I know some of you have already hinted to about it, and you're waiting for it. If you know about sky watching, you've seen it on mainstream news. They're chatting about it already on different channels. That's the lunar eclipse. It's happening on November 19th, Friday. So the lunar eclipse is when you've got the sun, the earth, and the moon in a perfect alignment. And that will happen this Friday, coinciding with the full moon. So when we have the full moon, it'll be undergoing an eclipse. And what that means is that we'll be able to see the moon turn something blush red, basically, or orange color, some kind of ruddy color. It will appear. And I'll explain more about that in a minute. But I wanted to set the scene as who can actually see the lunar eclipse, because I know you guys are all waiting to find out about when and where to see it. So here we've got a setup for, let me see, of where you can see it. Let me just go there. There you go. So this is the map provided generously by NASA. I'll have a link to this as well on my Facebook channel. You'll have on my timeline right there. And what this is, map of the world, of course. You can see all the continents, and anywhere that's darkened, that's completely dark color, it will not be visible. So if you are located, unfortunately, anywhere in this cone here, where most of Africa, the eastern parts of Europe, and the Middle East, and parts of even Asia here, Western Asia, will not be able to see the eclipse at all. So that's because it's daytime where you are. Where it is fully transparent, where it's white, like as it is here in North America and most of the Pacific, the eclipse from beginning to end, all eclipse will be visible. So all stages of the eclipse, the entire 3.5 hour show, it takes 3.5 hours for it to see, will be visible. So that is, again, remember, November 19th, this Friday, and I'll talk about the times in a minute, but that is the entire eclipse is visible. And then those areas that are shaded gray, as is most of South America, and you can see most of China, Japan, also Australia, New Zealand, parts of New Zealand as well. These areas will see some of the eclipse, either the first half or the second half. Won't be able to see the entire show in itself. But if you're located in anywhere in North America or in the Pacific, you'll be able to see from beginning to end the whole 3.5 hour. But those of you that are in the shaded areas will see the maximum one parts of it most likely as well. So that's the lay of the land in terms of who can see the eclipse. Now, what will be the timing of the eclipse? Here we go. So here's another chart. I just want to say courtesy of NASA. I'll be posting this on my timeline as well. It shows you how the moon will be going through the Earth's shadow. And this is what I have to just mention to everybody. Why we see an eclipse is because the moon enters Earth's shadow. The Earth's shadow is cast onto the surface of the moon, and it will be, and this is what this center circle represents, is the umbra, is the dark shadow of the Earth, and the penumbra is the outer, lighter shadow. There's two shadow cones of the Earth. And the moon will start entering the shadow cone at around 7 o'clock on universal time. Okay, 7 o'clock universal time. And it'll continue entering the shadow until it gets almost completely into the Shire. Now, technically, this is a partial total eclipse, not a total lunar eclipse, but a partial eclipse, and what they're calling an almost total. Because for all practical purposes, for you and me, we're not professional astronomers, we're actually sky watchers. We should be able to see the moon turn a color, at least most of the disk, and especially the northern half. If you look here, you can see on this diagram, I'm pointing out here, this little part here might be lit up. So this is kind of what you'll see during maximum eclipse at 9:03 universal time. You'll have to calculate that out for your time zone. I will post this on my timeline on Facebook, so don't worry. You'll have it there on the Night Sky Guy page. I'll do that right after this show. And so just to give you an idea, that is 4:03 Eastern time in North America, or 1:03 Pacific time, the Pacific coast of North America. So by 4 o'clock in the morning, so anyone in North America is going to have to either be a late night owl or a super early riser. Put that alarm clock on. The most impressive part, so basically the most impressive part of this lunar eclipse will be at its maximum, greatest eclipse, as you can see, where that color change happens. That's going to be centered on at 9:03 universal time. So if it's dark where you are at the time, basically, this is what it comes down. If you do your calculation, 9 o'clock universal time, if it's dark where you are, you'll see at that time, on Friday, November 19th, you'll see the best part of the lunar eclipse. Hopefully you have clear skies as well. And then the reverse starts happening as the moon continues gliding through Earth's shadow. It'll come out of the shadow by 11:05 a.m. universal time. It leaves the shadow cone. So this is the layout of what's happening. It's really beautiful. It's the second lunar eclipse of the year. We had one in May. And I hope you guys get to see this. This is going to be something very magical and cool for all of us to see. There'll be live streams as well. I'm actually working with Astronomers Without Borders, putting together a whole bunch of live streams. So if you're stuck indoors, or it's daytime, you're at the office, or you're at home on your digital device, it's cloudy, whatever, you want to check out what other people are seeing, I'll have a list of stuff that I'm preparing for AWB. And I'll put a link out as soon as that's available, so you'll be able to check out all the different live streams of other people showing this live on the internet as the moon blushes red on November 19th, this Friday. So that's it, guys. That's it for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm looking at all your comments. I'm going to be looking through them after the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's fantastic of you guys to show your allegiance. If you like what you see, you enjoy these videos that I put out every week, then hit that subscribe button. It means a lot to me to show your support by subscribing to my channel. It allows me to continue doing these videos for you every week. So, and I'll have, of course, my sky charts there too. And don't forget to give a thumbs up and share the video with your friends and network so they all get out and enjoy these neat, wonderful sky watching events that I bring to you all the time. So without further ado, I hope all of you have clear skies. And until next time, I wish all of you a fond farewell. Bye-bye.